all the way from Nigeria and Germany. Mr. Gbandi, you're welcome. I'm happy to have you here today, and you will tell us from which I know you're multifaceted and you have quite a lot running. I left you with even a magazine that used to report really nice things about the African diaspora. And we are happy to have you here today. And I hope you recognize me. I know you nicknamed me the landlord of Cologne. I don't know if I'll become a landlord here in Norway, but welcome, Mr. Gbandi. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Rachel. Yes. As a matter of fact, when I saw, it's been very funny that we've been communicating, but it's like when you appeared on the screen, I said, that's Rachel. Cologne, I know Rachel of Cologne. What's she doing in Switzerland now or in Norway? Anyway, thanks to have me. It's been a great pleasure listening to all the great diaspora experts. Like the first speaker and actually the second speaker, Dr. Lucy also mentioned, it's always good to network in the diaspora continent, the African continent, especially in the diaspora. I was privileged to be in Paris. That was in 1999, if I'm not mistaken, when the African Union African Diaspora was launched in Paris. I was one of the keynote speakers on media. And the essence was actually to organize the diaspora, to play a very important role in the African continent, having recognized the diaspora as the sixth continent of the region under the African Union. So I think everybody recognized that the best resources of any nation are the human resources. The diaspora are the epitome of every nation's human resources, both human and social capital, with international best practice and network. I think Rachel and Joy has demonstrated that over the years, also in the diaspora. So the diaspora play important role of any nation. Israel, India, and Rwanda are very, very good example. And I'm very, very excited at what I'm hearing from Kenya about this SACCO. Nigeria, being one of the biggest diaspora network, has not been able to manage such a very impressive investment organization like SACCO. Of course, we had in the past been able to raise diaspora bond into billions, but that was done under the government directive, but not the diaspora themselves. And like Dr. Lucy also mentioned, yes, we remit a lot of money back to the African continent. But the question is, when you point out what have these big remittances been able to do for us, one cannot point out anything. So the idea has been, how can we organize ourselves in a way that we can still help our parents or our families back home and still go into an investment project or capital project. And I think SACCO is doing a very wonderful job on that. We have to reach out to them to see how they're able to do that. And they probably will have to introduce that on the Nigerian platform. But most diaspora that I know in Nigeria, we have about, say, 22 million Nigerians in diaspora. Over the years that I have the contact with some of them, especially the leading ones. The first thing in their mind, I think that also started with the keynote speaker today, is that irrespective of how bad our country is or are in Africa, everybody is thinking about Africa. Everybody is thinking back home. What can we do back home? How can we help people back home? How can we, both politically and investment-wise? So it's always in the mind of everybody, how can we contribute to the development of our continent? And I think they've mentioned a couple of investment opportunities. Again, top on investment that I've experienced with Nigerian diaspora are actually in the real estate business, housing. I think it's there for obvious reasons. There's a sentimental attachment to have a roof over your head. When you're thinking about settling back in Africa, the first thing that comes to your mind when you get back to Africa, you don't want to stay with your parents or your father. You want to have your own roof over your head. So that means it strikes first in your mind that you want to have a roof over your head. That's why housing, it becomes a very, very important line of investment. So when I was the chairman of Nigerian Diaspora Organization Europe, we took it as our first prerogative to invest in the house now, diaspora, what we call diaspora housing project. Well, we were able to secure with our technology partner $2.36 billion on humanitarian housing fund, which used to be invested in Africa. The fund is supposed to, for the proposed housing project in Nigeria, which is in to deliver a minimum of 350,000 affordable housing in 10 years. Apart from that, it's going to also create about 300,000 additional job every year in Nigeria throughout the duration of that project. In addition to that, it's going to stimulate a small-scale businesses like those people engage in plumbing, in electrical works. Apart that also, we intend to use that opportunity to train most of those artisans, most of these medium scale, which I think either you or you mentioned that is it's one of the things in your mind, to see these small scale businesses. How can we bring them together, train them, empower them to involve in these massive housing projects, so that they will be able to also to stand on their own, bringing this small development across the cities. Well, I will tell you, unfortunately, which is also one of the things that every diaspora will know. Unfortunately, as laudable as this project is or was, and we are supposed to partner with the government. It did not happen. Why? Political consideration, and that's why most people actually said. And I'm happy to know how the Kenyan has been able to manage that, because one of the biggest problem of diaspora investment, at least in Nigeria, it's not even market entry, which most people would have thought would have been the biggest problem of finance. No, the biggest problem of diaspora investment in Nigeria is the government bureaucracies, corruption, having political consideration. And so that is actually what killed that 2.36 billion housing project. But we did not let that stop us. So what happened is that we moved beyond depending on the government, so to say, to bring in the diaspora, few diaspora who are interested in this diaspora project, to say, hey, we can get a piece of land in Nigeria, and get ourselves together, and put up something at our own financial capability. And that is how the diaspora village in Delta State was born. And so we bought about 40, 50 acres of land that will accommodate about 280 housing units. We have a overall plan for the estate. But we allow individuals to go there, buy a piece of land, and develop it within their own ability and capability. What we are trying to do in addition to that is to reach out to financial institutions and mortgage institutions to see how can they help the diaspora. I think Joy mentioned that, we are struggling, $50, $100. It's not probably capable of building a house, a dream house of our own. So we'll be looking out to see if we can reach out to organizations like SACCO to say, listen, we have this is a massive project in Nigeria. We don't have, the individual in diaspora don't have the ability, to have this massive, huge investment. How can we collaborate that you finance those houses, they pay mortgage or they pay, interest on that loan as we go on, so that they can be able to invest that individually. By so doing, we end up, creating housing for the diaspora who want to return home. We help to empower the youth who are going to engage in that massive construction, from plumbing to electricity to carpentry and the rest of them. And at the same time, transfer wealth from the diaspora back to the mother continent, which is actually the essence of this program, or the whole of the diaspora dream, to bring investment back to Africa and help create generational wealth. I think that's what we are trying to do in Nigeria. And so far, it has been very successful. So I'm looking forward at the end of this program to see how I can reach out to Joy or organize this Kenyan cycle, and how can we also collaborate with such a housing project that will be able to, to key into the financial resources.
Amazing. That's really nice, Mr. Gbandi. Now I'm calling you doctor, but it's okay.
Maybe you're trying to give me a doctor. It will come. It will come soon.
Yes, let me give you a honorary one right here, right today, because what you're doing is amazing, and what you've been doing is really amazing. So in a nutshell, because you mentioned the challenges which frustrated your ambitious project of almost, you say 350 affordable houses in 10 years, 350,000.
650,000.
650,000. Oh my, oh my. And that is something really huge. But another thing which you're doing very well is to realize that we need to transfer skills, like what you mentioned, plumbing. I don't know if it's in Nigeria, it's also a challenge of getting a good plumber, of getting this, skilled labor in these areas, in as much as a lot of people have invested in housing. Since time immemorial, diaspora like to put money for building a house for their own or for their parents, but it's still very astonishing that you hardly get good plumbers or something. They are there, but very few, not tallying with the market that is there. But I would like you to tell us in a nutshell, so that we can be in good time, that I can go on to the rest. what are the good best practices fellow Africans and friends of Africa can adopt to facilitate a structured way in how we approach development in the African continent, especially being cognizant of issues like corruption and frustration, diaspora really answering the call that come back and build Africa. And then you raise the money, because Dr. Lucy Mackenzie said rightfully, diaspora has the money and they're willing to come together. But what is really stopping this? Is there a rift? How can that be breached between diaspora and the governments? Can you tell us?
Yes, like I just mentioned, the challenge, which is very obvious. But I think the best practice, I can reach out again to SACO. I'm just marveled how they managed to put that up. If you get 7 Nigerians together to talk about investment, you get 7 lawyers and seven different opinions. And so at the end of the day, you end up not getting a consensus on that. So one of the things I thought we could do, and probably Ifeanyi actually he has not said anything, but immediately he mentioned digital commerce. My mind swapped. I said, wow, I'm looking forward to hear what he has to say. I think it is time diaspora also float an investment banking. I don't see a reason why we cannot do that. If we can float an investment banking in the diaspora, that is going to be make a lot of sense in terms of how we have a structured investment back in Africa. But in addition to that, just take example, the Western Union and all the money transfer organization who are making billions of US dollars going back to Africa. If we can have an organized African money transfer outfit, where we say for every transfer that 1% is set aside for capital development in that country, whether it be it in Nigeria or be it in Kenya. And you can take for instance that we remitted 300 billion Kenyan shillings in last year. Take 5% of that amount into a fixed capital project. You can imagine what is going to do for the African continent. So I think the best practice is for Africans to begin to take it individually, like what SACO is doing, or like what we're trying to do. Locate a business venture in Africa, which you trust those people who are running that, and you can be able to buy into that investment. Agriculture or the housing seems to be going on in Nigeria. Get involved in diaspora remittances, but also the money in the bank is a wasted money. And so we should begin to look at the investment projects in Africa and see exactly how we can go into that. But most importantly, diaspora must come together, not relying on their government, to be able to drive investment. But people like probably the digital commerce that Ifeanyi is going to talk about, and how they can help us to organize a kind of a SACO version in Nigeria will be what I will advise every diaspora to look out for.